Something that I say along the way will touch you. I know it. Let's begin that process of crafting a meaningful life.
Here's Mary Crafts.
Welcome, listeners. And of course, now for the last, 4 months, welcome visual people who want to actually see what we look like and are watching on YouTube. It's wonderful to have you back to Crafting a Meaningful Life. And that's what we do here. We bring all sorts of topics from, how do I even get up in the morning to what is it going to be like as I walk into the later part of my life? And what do I do about my child who is a member of the LGBTQ community now? And all my life I've had these dreams, but I've never been able to fulfill them. And I'm still scared to death of every single thing in my life. And I'm 69 years old. We cover it all here. And I'm glad to have you back. To that end, I have a guest today named Kim Flynn. Welcome, Kim.
Hello, welcome. Thanks for having me,
Oh,
Mary.
I'm just delighted to have you because you and I have been friends for a while now, but the Kim that I've known was this mover and shaker in Utah, business owner. People look to you as like an icon, not just here locally, but really nationally, and you can claim that. And then it just seemed like, now I know in your mind, I'm sure it wasn't all of a sudden, but it seemed like to those of us on the side,
It was all
on
of a
the
sudden.
sidelines watching, like, what do you mean she's going to run retreats in Costa Rica and never comb her hair again? I don't understand. What's happening?
Oh
So
my goodness, Mary. So
let's
many
start
stories
with the
to be told.
journey. Yeah.
Okay, let's start with the journey. All right. So I started my business probably, 10, 15 years ago, and just went gangbusters. Really aggressively pushed the business just to grow it as quickly as I could and saw a lot of
Yeah.
success. So in
Okay,
2020,
so
I
let's
remember,
stop right there.
oh yeah,
So explain to the
yep.
listeners what kind, I know,
hmm
but explain to the listeners what kind of
hmm
business this was and what you chose
Yeah.
to fly with.
We hosted business events. So we held about 200 business retreats a year. We had 3 locations across the country. We had a team of about 60, 10 million in revenue. We were gangbusters. And I had my sights set on, nope, it was always a number, Mary. It was always numbers I was chasing. Once I hit 10 million, then I will be successful. Hit that, and I was like, well, I still have more to go. Once I hit 30 million, then I'll be successful. It's like this number that you chase and you don't even realize, I didn't realize, if I can just go straight into it, I didn't realize I was sacrificing myself for a business. I was sacrificing myself for a number. And I don't think I would have ever gotten off that path if life hadn't put a brick wall right in front of me. So you suggested that I chose to jump off the mountain. Oh no. COVID completely stopped our
Yeah,
business. We were 100% running events and we had
no
no
revenue.
revenue for 5 months and we had to close our doors. And Mary, it was devastating. When I say devastating, it was the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. And when you are stopped in your tracks, you realize it's not just about the business, that you have defined yourself
Your
in some
identity,
way.
everything is wrapped up
Exactly.
in that business. Yeah.
Yep, everything was. So I'm on the other side of it now. I'm 3 years through it, and I'm in a completely different place than where I was when I fell. But I really want to speak to that place of after you have a giant transition in your life, whether it's a death, a divorce, something traumatic, or you lose your job, or in my case, you lose everything you've worked for the past 10 or 15
Yeah.
years to get. How do you navigate that? That's what I want to talk
So
about.
what were the initial feelings of when you smacked into that
hmm
brick wall, which really 99% of Americans did, and our world? That's the whole
hmm
thing. It was worldwide.
Yeah.
How did you feel?
Yeah. It was mostly disbelief. I could not face that we had to close our doors until like 2 or 3 days before we did. We had zero money in our bank accounts. My business partner, I remember on the phone with me saying, we have to close our doors. And I was like, no, over my dead body, I will not close our doors. Let's try something new. And he's like, with
What?
what
Yeah.
money? Like I'd never been in that position before with you're trying to do something. There's no resources with what money. And so I faced that like 2 or 3 days before. And so I was just stunned, like complete and utter disbelief. Never, I always thought, Mary, as long as I have enough guts, enough gumption, enough willpower, enough workforce, yes, I will power through. Like life can't stop me. Oh yeah, life can stop you. Yeah. And so I figured I was just stunned. I did not know what
So
could happen
did
to me.
you internalize that as a personal failure, or were you able to say, this was something that happened outside of me?
I do get that it's something that happened outside of me, and I literally did everything I personally could do. Maybe someone else could have, with more experience going through that, could have saved it. I personally did everything I could do. So I did know it was external, but it doesn't help with, oh my goodness, that was who I am. Like, that's who I am. If I am this owner of this large company and I am this leader, who am I now? And I was so lost. So the first thing I did that was a little bit erroneous, that I'm hoping someone can hear this and not repeat my mistake, which is I was like, okay, I will just rebuild what I had as quickly as possible with something new. So hurry, let's find something new. And so I hurry and find something new, and I hire a team, and I'm like, all right, let's do this again. And I think that's really common. And I wish I hadn't done that, but I did. And and then you learn. I think what I learned was there is something else that life wants you to do here. There's a different lesson. You've already ran down this road full force. You know what this road looks like. You've already done this road. Life has something new for you, and it's not recreating what you just, walked away from or fell off the mountain from. If that
Yeah,
makes sense.
totally makes sense. That, and that's really, for me, that works from, this crazy kind of combination of spiritual, mental, emotional, physical kind of
Hmm.
combination of things. As you look at that, you don't think, oh, let's see, I want to just keep doing the same thing because I know how to be successful at it. We
Hmm.
now know that life creates opportunities for us to grow in other areas and in new ways and expand new visions, even though we go there kicking and screaming with our heels stuck in. Life has a way of presenting those things to us that we can't say no to.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Well said, one of the biggest lessons that I learned was, you talk about spiritual and emotional. Here's kind of the framework and the model that I figured out. That person inside of you, or that inside of me, that was chasing that number, that was looking for my value in, if I build this company even bigger, then I will be successful, then I will have value, right? If whenever it's not what you do, it's why you do it. If you're doing it for that reason, there's this person inside that I call Edna. Do you know Edna from
I
Incredibles?
love
She's the
Edna
little short.
Mole. Edna Mole.
I
Yeah,
do
I
too.
love her. She's my pseudo identity. Absolutely.
Yes, she actually is my pseudo identity. She's my ego. So, so, so use whatever word you want to. I call her
Yeah.
Edna, and Edna is all about making sure that everything looks good, making sure that all the T's are crossed, all the I's are dotted, that we are moving forward, that we're looking good, that we're always progressing. Like
Yeah.
she is like that driver inside of me. And the problem was, I thought that's who I was. I thought that
Ah.
was me. That's just ego. That's a part of those people that are inside of you, right? That's one part of me. And it took me getting really quiet and really still and spending time by myself that I'd never done before in my life. I'm 47 years old. I'd never spent time alone in my life. So
Well,
I go to
let's just
Costa
say you
Rica.
did that about 10 years before I did. So there you go. Yeah,
Really?
I didn't
Really?
start down this journey until I was
Yeah.
50 and then really embraced it at 65. So,
Oh, I
yeah.
love that. It's like, I don't know. It's like this post 40 part of your life turns into something very different and very unexpected, but way cooler than you could ever plan for yourself.
I
You know?
think that
I didn't
the
expect
key
that.
to that piece is I see so many women go through this, and at the time I did not identify it with, here's your 50 year crisis, midlife crisis. I
Hmm.
identified it more
Hmm.
as um, something's got to change here, or my life on this planet's done. and so you really
Mm,
step into then, so what is going on and why is this happening? And a lot of people at that point in time go out and buy a sports car or, you know what I mean,
mm.
uh, buy a home in Costa Rica. We'll get to that part of the story later, but
We'll get there. We'll get
they do
there.
things that I don't know are just band-aids. And
Mm,
for me, the way to get through that was just to rip every band-aid I ever owned off
mm,
and to
mhm,
really
mhm.
look inside at what was driving my life. And when I woke up to the fact that fear was driving my life, was driving my success, was driving how I parented, that's when for me the change began to happen. And
Mhm.
um, so that was how I finally ripped it open, pulled the band-aid off. But at that point, did you know that such an internal transformation was going to happen to you when you decided to regroup?
No, I had no idea. I felt so lost and so in a fog and so
Mm,
uninspired and just going through the motions and like wanting to find something, but I just didn't know what it was. Nothing was exciting to me. I started this and I was like, ugh. And I started this and it was like,
mm,
ugh. And I just, nothing was exciting to me. And so my sister lives in Costa Rica. She called me up and she said, "We bought a new home. Why don't you go down there and be the property manager, i.e., live there for a
sure.
few months?" And I was like, hell yes. So I went there. I say alone, but I was with my 13-year-old special needs
Ah,
child, and she's amazing and really sweet and quiet. So it's almost like you're alone. So we go there together, and something magical happens when, first of all, you're alone. Second of all, you spend that much time in nature. It's outdoor
yeah,
living,
yeah,
and I got away from the big fancy house and all the trappings of my old world. And you go to the grocery store and you put your groceries on your back and you walk through the mud on the way home. Like it's like back to human roots, like how we were designed to live, you know?
I've been
And
to
something
Costa Rica
about that.
twice.
Yeah.
The first time
Hmm.
was absolutely went to a resort, didn't interact with the people or the culture.
Hmm.
But the second time I went was very different. And
Hmm.
I knew the people and I walked where they walked and I ate where they ate. And it transforms you. Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah, and I don't know if there's something magical about
There
Costa
is.
Rica
There
itself.
is.
I
I
think
do
there
too.
is. I think there is. I know. I think there's something magical about being
Hmm.
outside in nature. I think that is just for our soul what we're born to do. Here in Utah, there like all I do, I walk to the car and then I walk from the car to the
Yeah.
door. That's all the outdoor time I get on a regular
Especially in the
basis.
winter.
There's a
Yeah.
big difference. I know. I know. And so there's something very healing about nature and then just being alone. I wish I had, as a mom, I've got 4 kids. I wish I had just said, you know what, every, 6 months, I'm going off for a week by myself, every 6 months, and just spent time with getting to know the person that's here, not the Edna. Edna's always in
Yeah.
charge. And realizing that you're actually not Edna or whatever that looks like
Yeah.
for you, that piece that you've defined yourself as, that's actually not who you are. And just getting some separation from her, loving her, thanking her for how much she pushed me to grow, and then realizing, wait a second, I'm actually not her. And
Yeah.
that was pretty
And
magical.
letting go of that. So,
Hmm.
what was that big aha moment after you'd gone down to stay in Costa Rica? You're at your sister's
Hmm.
home and you're there. What did that
Hmm.
aha moment look like?
It was so gentle. There was no big aha. There was no big like you're awake. It was more of, man, it makes me cry. Just every day growing a little bit in being more comfortable with myself, not needing to prove,
Yeah,
impress, or do anything to define myself, to prove my worth, to
yeah.
show that I am strong or anything like that. Like that all drops away, and you're like, it's just me. It's just me. Like I can show up just as I am.
And that you
And
are what? Enough. Just the way you
mhm,
are,
yep,
without the
yep,
trappings. Yeah.
yep. And you hear it a million times, and until you I don't know, for me, it just comes in as like internal knowing. It feels very different than reading the words on a page. And I think that's one of the difficulties with spiritual principles. You can read them on a page, but they really don't translate until you experience it. It's experiential learning that has to happen. And then when you try to describe it, it sounds like the words on the page, but you're like, but that's not it. You can't put it on words on a page. It's here. Yeah.
Very
Yeah.
much so. So when you walked in, I'm not going to say when you blew into the space, when you began to gradually walk into the space that you are now,
Hmm. Hmm.
what were you called to do? What did you feel like? I mean, first it seems like that you were called to be and then called to do, or how did that look, or how did you formulate that?
Hmm. The I spent some time like journaling, and I'm a big journaler, and trying to figure out, okay, what is that purpose statement? For me, it's like I want it to be a little bit more defined. And so I
Mm,
came up with, I want to inspire through connection, and it's the connection piece that I had lost along the way. Earlier in my career, I knew all my clients. I hung out with them at the events. I actually trained at the events, and it was like this magical place. And I didn't stay there very long. I kind of blew right past that, chasing numbers, right? And as you know, when you're running a larger
yeah,
business, you spend most of your time in meetings and you spend most of your time in
yeah.
finance. And do I love finance? Sure. I mean, I can train it. I can walk you through it. I know, that's, anyway. Yes, I know finance well. Is that the purpose of my life? Do I want to be giving my life to finance?
And I,
No.
I felt like, in my company as I grew, I had been in the business 35 years by the time I sold it to my kids at age 65.
Hmm.
And that there was a lot of the time in the beginning that I was actually in the kitchen. I was chefing, I was
Hmm.
cutting, I was working the events, I was loading it, unloading it, serving it, cleaning it up. I mean, the whole thing. And then you
Hmm.
step out of that just a little bit. And then you really realize, okay, this is a business. I have to be financial. I have to, learn that piece
Hmm.
and become that piece. And then you learn that you're also the HR person as you're hiring and expanding. And there's that. And with each step, I grew farther away from the piece of the business that I loved. And in the end, even though I still had some clients, most of my clients were in with other salespeople. What I was doing the most was marketing. And I was
Hmm.
marketing my company to become bigger,
Hmm.
marketing to sell more. And not that that
Hmm.
was a bad goal, but even at age 65, when I left, I thought, well, that was not enough. If that was life,
Have that in
yeah,
common.
then my
Yeah.
life truly is over. Because that was
Mm.
gone, and now I just kind of fade into oblivion, and yeah, watch my kids do it, I guess, and you
Mhm.
know, what gets me up in the morning? Yeah,
Yeah. I feel you on that one. I feel you on that one. So then I went into the lost space, which you're
yeah,
describing, that lost space. And then you either stay in lost space, follow the path that you used to be on, trying to recreate that, or embrace that there's something new and something. This for me was a surprise to me. So, discovered Edna, realized that wasn't me. That was step one. Got really still,
yeah.
cleared out my life, did pretty much nothing for 2 months except walk to the grocery store and back and sit in a hammock. Seriously, like it was pretty much nothing. And I needed a lot of recovery time from 15 years of
Push, push,
pushing
push.
without listening to
Yeah,
hear. Hmm. And then this is the part that I wasn't expecting, and this will part that brings me to tears. And it's like this, like if you clear your life out enough and you're listening to yourself, um, my experience is life gives you better than your wildest dreams in a completely
yes,
different way,
yes,
but better than your
yes,
wildest
yes,
dreams.
yes.
Who knew?
Who
Who knew?
knew?
I was not expecting that. I was not
Now
expecting that. I was expecting.
living in
Hmm. Go
Costa
ahead.
Rica, you're surrounded by monkeys,
Mhm.
and that's the monkeys are with you always. But it reminds me of this of the story which is told so often of the monkey in the cage who reaches out to get the banana but then can't get it back in and spends his
Mhm.
life trying to get the banana in. Eventually, they drop a ton of bananas right next to him, but he can't eat them because
Mhm.
he won't let go of this banana. And then at
Yes,
one
yes,
point,
yes.
they even take down the cage and he's free to go. And he still will not let go of this banana that
Mhm.
he knows is the most important thing in his life.
Mhm.
And all of us at some point in time, and you and I already have experienced that. That at some point,
Mhm.
as we looked over there at that freedom and looked at all those bananas, we were able to do something most are not.
Hmm.
Let go of the first banana. Pull your
Mhm.
arm in
Oh, so powerful.
and
So
move.
powerful, Mary.
And that for me was one of the greatest gifts of my life, to be able
Mm.
to let go. Finally,
Mhm.
it's a matter of true abundance because it's the scarcity piece of us that's holding on to that banana, thinking that there is an end and there isn't enough for everyone and that I'm not going to be enough and I've got to hang
Mhm.
on to what I've got. And when we finally can let go of that, say, I trust. I trust that there's something else. And then, there's just this whole world out there, chock full of
And
bananas.
then a Thanksgiving
Yeah.
feast appears in front of you, and you're like, "Oh, I had no idea." And it's different than you thought it would be,
Oh,
for me
yeah,
anyway.
very
It's
much.
not that you're getting the same success that you were chasing. You get something completely different.
So, what walked
Um,
into your life that was completely
Costa
unexpected?
Rica walked
Yeah.
into my life. Costa Rica. I never thought, I always like was a little bit jealous of people who did like international things and lived internationally. And I was like, oh, I wish I could do that, but I can't. I have kids and I can't. And I have, the business and the building and I'm, here and I can't do, that kind of
Yeah.
thing. Like you tell yourself all
Yeah.
the I can't. And then it frees up for you and you're like, oh, yeah. Do you want to go live internationally? Yes, better than my wildest dreams. Do you want to live there with your two sisters who are also going to live there? Just serendipitously happened,
Your
right?
wildest dreams, right, girl?
My
Oh,
wildest
wow.
dreams, my
Yeah.
wildest dreams. And then as you figure out your entire life, why don't you also do a business here doing exactly the piece of your business that you love? Remember how that stage of business, I don't know, about 5, 7 years back when you were actually running retreats and loving working with those clients? Let's do that again. And I was like, oh my goodness, I could not have written this down on a dream board of said, this is what I want. Because I was so busy holding on to that banana of this is what success looks like and this is what my business looks like and I have to recreate this and if I don't recreate this then what do I do,
And
that
who
kind of
am
thing.
I?
And then life, yes, and life is like here's something new. So it was all downloaded to me in just a couple of months of like, here is your new life. And I am just like dumbfounded of honestly how grateful I am for going through the worst time I've ever been through. So grateful now. And it took about 3 years to get there. I would have been thrilled if it took me 10 years to get there because this new banana is so sweet. And I understand now that maybe there's a time when I give up this banana and life will give me another one. And I'm okay
And you
with that.
discover
Like
you
I
love
get to
coconuts.
yes. Yes.
All right. So as people are listening to this and they're hearing that part of crafting your meaningful life at some point may be that you have to reassess. At some point in your life, you may have to let go of what is
Mhm,
to find the what might be and the what is
mhm,
coming and the what was designed for you. How would you
mhm,
say most people not hitting a brick wall such as you did, but yet feeling that there's something else out there, feeling that
mhm.
there's something missing that they're not seeing. How do they start that? How do they walk through that process?
I think it's the same process whether you're pushed off the mountain or whether you're like looking over the cliff saying, do I want to jump? Do I want to jump? I'm not wanting to be on this mountain anymore. I think it's the same process. I think people who have the courage to jump off the mountain without being pushed, I have my absolute respect, um, because that's harder. But I think the same processes fall into place. Number one, you recognize that you are not what you used to hold on to. You are not that thing that you define yourself by. You are not a relationship. You are not a religion. You are not a business owner. You are not career XYZ. You're bigger than that. You're something different than that. Um, and get to know that piece of you that is who you actually are and the difference between her and your version of Edna. So that's step one. Step two, I would say you have to clear out your life to let life bring you more bananas. If you are I so love that visual, Mary. Thank you for that. If you are vice grip on that banana, and putting all your attention on that banana and your life is full of that banana, there's no room to even see what else is out there. And so clear off your schedule, clear out your life, say no, take things off, just give yourself a blank slate. And then number three, this is the piece that I wish someone had sat me down and said, you can trust. You can trust life. You can absolutely 100% trust her. She's gotcha. She's gotcha.
I love that. I think that's what's such a key
yeah.
piece you talked about, Kim, that you just have to trust. First of all, trust. I don't care what spiritual modality you're in, but there is that sense of that there is a bigger something, and that if you can let go of the old stuff, the new stuff can embrace you. But as long as you're holding on over here, there's none of this open arms waiting to be received into the next step. And that for me is so critical, that trust. So yes, trust in this grand piece of universe. Yes, trust in others. But you and I both know that the biggest piece of trust lies right here. We have to trust
Like I've got
that,
me.
okay, I actually got this. I actually know I've developed these skill sets. I actually know that I was born to this. And step in. Step in.
So well said.
I love that.
Yeah, I know.
There's
Right.
the
We're in
big
the same-
exhale. So tell me what your retreats are about in Costa Rica now. What you're doing.
Yeah, I want to talk about that, but one more
yes.
thing I have to say
Yes.
before we move on. And that is essentially it's the death cycle. That's what we're talking about. We're talking about whether you're leaving a part of your your past, what the path you used to be on, or whether you're leaving life itself. It's the letting go, it's the death cycle. So anyway, just wanted to mention
It is
that.
the death
So
cycle.
from that, yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I'm just kind of saying that and picturing that in my mind, is that sometimes we fear that death so much because we don't believe that there's life after death, or life after our old career, or life after our children are gone, or life after anything. And we fear the death of any piece of our life. That's so profound, Kim. I've never thought of it in exactly that format. To not fear that.
And those three steps are the same. We recognize we're not our body. We have time for ourselves in stillness. We let go of the things that we're holding on to, and then we trust, truly, madly, deeply trust. So my mom has terminal cancer right now, so that's on the top of my mind as I think about her struggling to let go, of her body.
Yeah.
Because who would not? And so whether you're letting go of a relationship, of a career, of whatever it is you're letting go of, or life itself, I think it's the same process.
Trusting that you are held. Yeah.
All right, from that awkward transition to what am I doing now? So what I'm doing now is exactly what I want to do. And Barry, there's still, for me, I'm not like this enlightened Zen creature yet. Maybe one day I'll get there, but there's still self-judgment for me on this one. I still like tell people what I'm doing, and I'm like, I'm playing small based on my old pattern of what business should look like,
Ah,
right? And so what I'm doing is running like 4 retreats a year. I used to run 200, 4 retreats a year, but this is the very fun part. I get to work with the clients directly. It's going to be in Costa Rica. I'm in the process of buying a whole like retreat center down there, which I'm super excited about. And I'm going to train people how to run retreats. So coaches, wellness business owners, I'm going to show them the model that I use to build a $10 million company. If they honestly want to make 100K, awesome. I don't even care about the number anymore. Number does not matter.
right.
Like if they want to learn how to run a retreat, it's a really beautiful model. I'll walk them through step by step of actually doing it.
Wow. What an
So that's what
incredible,
I'm excited to do.
was there ever a
It's kind of
time
fun.
in history that that was like a more needed opportunity? People starting retreats, people giving workshops, people running conferences in the self-help, inspirational awareness movement is like skyrocketing. And yet so many times people don't know what they're doing. They run one and it's not hugely successful, and then they don't ever do it again, and they feel like, oh, that was a failure, rather than thinking, okay, that struggle is part of working to my success, and how am I going to take this and learn from it so I can do my next one? And so to be able to offer this kind of thing to these people, that's huge. That's huge.
It's such a niche, and I have absolutely mastered that niche. And I'm like, what can I do with this like so nuanced training that I have that's very specific? What can I do? I can train that to the next generation of people who want to do it. And so I'm super excited about it. My first retreat's in May,
Okay.
and gearing up for
All
that. So
right.
I'm super excited.
And I think at the end of this podcast, we're going to provide some links so that people can actually find you, follow you, be connected to you if they have interest in doing any of that. So we'll have those links for
It'd be great.
people to do that. I just myself am dumbfounded with your transition, to be honest.
Mm,
Your transition is actually bigger than mine. And this is why. And you did yours like before midlife crisis, or at least certainly close to midlife crisis. But I mean,
mhm,
at age 45, I didn't begin this transition till I was 65. I
mm,
began realizing that something wasn't right, and that I needed to begin to
mhm,
transform. That there was something amiss in my life. That I was at age 50 weighing 284 pounds. There was something amiss in my life, that I had been 28 years in this marriage that was, abusive and just a
mm,
Debbie Downer every day of my life. There was something wrong, and so waking up to that fact and what needed to happen to move me out of that, it's the same analogy, Kim. I had to
mm,
let go of that banana and that relationship that was keeping me from this abundance, beauty, blessings, gifts. Still struggle, not that there's not struggle, but the struggle had purpose and point. And to let go of that, get my
mm.
arm out of that cage. If you can imagine what that was like. And then be
Freedom.
able to walk this direction with confidence. And I think that's another piece that sometimes as we start down this journey, both of us may not have been full confidence of, I got this,
Hmm.
but you do it anyway, and you step in anyway. And that the confidence, the abilities, the connections, they come after you've made the step and let go and walk in. You just sometimes walk in on hope, on faith, on
Hmm.
trust. And that's when the magic begins to happen. Look what's happening to you and the magic you have, right? It's
Hmm.
incredible. I love this because that's, as I can think about you just popping up on social media for a decade, just this, larger than life. Kim Flynn. Wow. And then,
Crickets.
right? I didn't know where you went, but I wanted to find out, and that's why I reached out to you. And now,
And
to
here I am.
find you blossoming like a rose in the jungle,
Mm,
it's beautiful. I want to come see you.
thank you.
I
Yes,
I
come
want
see
to come
me.
see you. I know Costa Rica is on my list very soon, and I want to come see you. I want to see what you're doing. I want to experience it. I want to see you. I've decided. I mean, I thought that might be something I might do. Maybe I might start a series of retreats, those kind of things. And then I kind of said, I don't think that's my direction,
Mm.
and I let go of that. But it doesn't still mean that I'm not super interested and would love to come just see you and bask in your light. I can just,
Well, come on
yeah,
down. I'm down there all the
yeah.
time. So come on down. You have an open
And we'll
invitation.
set up a bunch of cages
Um,
with bananas. And we'll watch what those Costa Rican monkeys gonna do. Kim, as we close our podcast today, if you were to say, what is it that I would like to leave with this group?
mm,
What is the
mm.
what is the thing that would inspire them, that would light their fire today? What would it be?
I think it's that phrase that I kind of leaned on when I was in that fog space. That fog space is the worst
Yeah.
space to be in. After you jump or are pushed and are actually falling and land, that's not as bad as that fog space of where do I go? What do I do?
Yeah.
That's the
Yeah.
worst space. And this phrase kept popping into my head, and it is truly, madly, deeply trust yourself. And so that's my final message.
I
Truly, madly, deeply trust
truly,
yourself.
madly, deeply trust yourself as you craft your meaningful life. Clem, thank you so much for being with us today. All part of how we craft our meaningful life. Kim, thanks so much again. We'll look forward to seeing you in Costa Rica.
Thank
All
you.
right.
Thanks,
Until
Mary.
next time, namaste.
Listen to the full podcast today and subscribe on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, and more. Crafting a Meaningful Life with Mary Crafts.